Hello, everyone. Welcome to Get Them to Give a podcast. That's right. I already cursed on my own podcast. Don't worry about it. I'm your host, Julie Wanzer. I'm the owner of Get Them to Care Consulting and author of the same book, Get Them to Care, your LinkedIn personal and company branding guidebook. During these podcasts, I'll be joined by industry experts, thought leaders, and people with things to say to give the audience actionable insights and fresh perspective on the B2B service industry. So today, obviously, I'm joined by Megan Cohill. She is the operations executive at Emprise Concepts. And I was actually introduced to Megan through Cristel de Herrera, who is the owner of Aero Marketing, and her episode actually will be played a couple episodes before yours. So make sure you tune into hers as well. But now I will shut up for a minute or two and let Megan introduce herself. So please take it away, Megan.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Julie. I really appreciate it. And so just to give you a little bit of background about me, I'm from the East Coast originally, came out to Colorado about 6 years ago, actually almost seven now. And
Wow.
kind of fell into the construction industry. I, got started on a pretty sizable project and fell in love with the industry and decided I was like, yeah, let's go ahead, let's make this a career and figure out
Yeah.
what that looks like. And kind of have come alongside some really great men who have been willing to kind of help like lift me up
Yeah.
and give me an opportunity. And that's been a really fantastic experience. So I recently moved over to Emprise. I've been with them about a year and a half now. Have had some really great opportunities to kind of just help the business grow and see what the guys can do. And they've been crushing it. So it's been fun to be a part of.
Oh, definitely. Well, I love that, Megan. So tell me a little bit more though. So where did you have a degree? Did you go to school, or how did you kind of end up in the working world? I mean, tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been in business now for almost 14 years.
Okay.
I did not start in civil engineering and construction. I actually started in tech.
Ooh,
My
okay.
degree was in political science and then was in technology for a couple of years and was like, you know what, tech too volatile. This was when the dot-com boom was happening and all of the
Yeah.
crazy stuff. And I was like, you know what, I want something a little more stable. So I moved over to finance right about the time that the housing market decided it was going to
Oh,
crash.
2008,
Yep,
2009. I
that's
hear
about
you.
right. Yep.
Yes.
So I actually moved to a really solid company and worked in investment management for about 4 years
Mhm.
and decided after about 4 years that I needed a change. And I went and traveled for a year and a half actually
Oh,
and was doing
awesome.
short-term volunteer work all over the world. So I was in Africa for 3 months, Asia for five, and then I was in Central America for another three. And then I went
Wow.
back out to be, in the Himalayas. And so did
Yes.
some travel there as well.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And then kind of came back and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be in the States for a while and decided I was going to move out to Colorado. And then, came out, was on financial fumes, just really needed a job at this point. And
Hear ya.
so it was one of those things where I decided, you know what, this is going to be my first opportunity. And I applied for an admin assistant job on a construction project. No idea what
Wow.
I was getting into. And it just kind of ballooned and grew from there.
Yeah.
My first boss, Scott McDaniel, actually looked at my resume the first time around and was like, she's overqualified. And he tossed it. And so
Okay. I,
I
I know
called.
Scott, by the way. Love him. I'm gonna have to tell him
Oh,
that
Scott's
story.
amazing. Oh, yeah. He knows this story. It's actually one of our
Very
favorites. So,
okay, good. All right, because I'm gonna give him shit later, but go ahead.
well, so I had called back and
Yes.
he was like, well, we're interviewing now. Do you want to come in for an interview? And so he did. And, he was like, oh, you have project management experience. I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I laid concrete while I was overseas. So I was like, I know enough to
Right?
be dangerous.
I
And
love it.
he was like, okay, great. Well, we've got this project. It was the
Mhm.
I-25 South Gap project. So that
Oh
was
wow, that's a huge project.
It
Huge.
was. It
Wow.
was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was an amazing experience. So that was basically how I ended up in construction, how I ended up out here.
Oh my God. And small world, by the way, guys. Small world. I mean, Scott McDaniel is like he's known in the industry, and if you don't know him, you should get to know him. But yeah, and I love that that was your entrance. So you started out as an administrative assistant. Then kind of tell me more about your progression there. I mean, obviously you're not still sitting behind the admin's desk. What does that kind of look like for you now in terms of your growth over the past few years, in
Yeah,
terms of your
absolutely.
roles?
Yeah,
Sorry, go
no,
ahead.
they've definitely transformed over the last 7 years for sure.
Hmm.
So, again, I was on the Gap, and it was one of those things where I just kind of picked up whatever needed to be done, started
Okay.
sort of just doing, Form 103s and
Hmm.
consolidating
Oh.
and, doing a little bit of doc controls. But I mean, Cami Apostolidis, she was fantastic at that and really had it under control. And
Hmm.
so I was kind of just, gathering, cats and herding them and trying to figure out where all the paper was. So,
Yes.
but then also, getting the opportunities to build monthly progress reports. I worked with
Hmm.
Courtney Ruhr on some project controls stuff and,
Yep.
even got into some inspections at that point. So I did an
Wow.
inspection on the Gap for a little while and then
Okay.
really kind of got to, get out in the field. Absolutely loved it. Was also put on a couple of other projects at the time. So
Hmm.
worked on, some data analysis and did some, traffic data analysis
Yeah.
and consolidating that together.
Okay.
So helped with that. Also did some initial document setup for another project at the time.
Hmm.
So just trying to get their infrastructure in place, get them rolling. And so did
Yeah.
that for the first couple of months. And then, also started to get into pursuit help. So we were actually chasing
Ooh, all
Floyd
right.
Hill at the time.
Oh,
And
another great project, by the way.
it
Yes.
was, yes. Yeah, so we started chasing Floyd Hill and I was like, yeah, like I would be willing to, help out. And so
Yeah.
again, started pitching in with whatever that looked like, consolidating, here's all of our project infrastructure that we had in place. And so
Yeah.
kind of giving all that documentation and then, helping with some write-ups. And then we did a site visit and then, doing some drafting. And then we fortunately won that project. I was with Roxol at the
Yes.
time.
Hmm.
And so then we started that up. And then I did all of our project infrastructure at that point. So came
Wow.
on early onto the project,
Hmm.
built out our racing models. So built out our workflows, all of our standard operating procedures, got the team trained up,
Nice.
helped get the project kind of set up and going from a
Hmm.
construction management side.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of need a change. So I was,
Hey, hey,
ready to transition.
right?
I was like,
Yep.
I've got some great skills. I would love
Hmm.
to be able to give them. And at the time, was just kind of putting my feelers out there. And, Preston Petty, who's the owner of Emprise Concepts with
Yes.
Jacob Grassmick,
Hmm.
he was like, I kind of need an operational unicorn. And I was like, well, I will give it a shot and I will
Great.
see
Sure.
what I can do.
Yep.
And yeah, so I, had ended my service with Roxol and
Hmm.
was like, looking for more of a challenge. And
Yeah.
this was a challenge. And so I came on in October 2023 with Emprise. And I think I was literally given everything but the kitchen sink. So
They're like, figure it out, Megan. You got this, right?
yeah, pretty much. But I learned over the course of that year that I actually thrive in that, like, hey, throw me in the deep end and I will I learned I can do a lot more than I think I can. So I'm very thankful for just that opportunity and just continuing to have that opportunity. And the guys have been so good about teaching me and letting
Yeah.
me go and saying, hey, you're actually good at that. Why don't you just keep doing that? So I'm like, oh,
You're
okay.
like, oh, thanks, right? Like, thanks for
Yeah.
recognizing that, guys. Like,
Yeah,
had
they're
no
great.
clue. No,
Yeah.
that's awesome, Megan. Well, I guess what I'm hearing from your story is that, again, starting out as the admin assistant, and it sounds like you didn't really even know where this path was going to take you, right? But you just kept going up, 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 kept leveling up. And I'm like, oh, damn, girl,
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Oh, thank you. I
Right?
appreciate it.
Seriously. No. And that's to me, that's one of the great things that I love about construction is that no matter how you enter it, right? However you enter the industry, there's always a place for you, right? If you're willing to work hard, show up, and keep asking questions, right? I mean, it sounds like, again, you were thrown into the deep end where we know you can swim and thrive, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like you were willing to also willing to learn, right? And take
Right.
on things that maybe you didn't even know you could do or needed to be done. How has that perspective now changed the way that you approach projects now?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would definitely say I've had some great mentors. Like the guys were again so willing to be like, well, this is why we do this, and this is how we
Hmm.
do this. And now I think coming onto this side of the house, being more on the business development, business to
Hmm.
business side, being like, okay, yeah, like let's think about like what is the scope of work? Like
Mm.
understanding now how a construction project is like how it actually progresses,
Yep.
understanding what those needs are and being like, you know what, there's so many different facets to it, right? Like I mean
Yes.
the personality components of it. And you're
Mm,
like, okay, like who are the right people to bring on who, they can bring this type of an energy to the
yeah.
project. Like maybe we need somebody who's like very detailed oriented and
Yep.
is going to be very specific. And I'm like, yes, I want you on this project, or like this is
Yes.
a great place for you to fit. Or
Hmm.
what does it look like to understand our clients' needs and understanding
Yeah.
how that influences a project and what the priorities of that project are. And,
Hmm.
where do we dial up? Where do we dial back? And
Right.
understanding those different levels.
Yeah.
Even understanding some of the technical, which again, I don't know, I'm not well versed in
Mm,
by any means, but knowing enough to be dangerous. I think that might
yes.
just be my motto. And they
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm writing that down, right? It's
yeah.
true. It works.
But
It
it's
works.
like when you know the experts and you're like, you know what, that person is actually incredibly knowledgeable at that. I want to go ask them those questions. Or you know
Yep.
what, they're the person that you bring on.
Hmm.
And you're like, yeah, what can you bring to the table? How can we use this unique knowledge to make this a reality? So
Yeah.
definitely, providing some of that perspective. And then I have a numbers brain, or at least there's a part of my brain that's numbers.
Yes.
And
Right.
then,
Yep.
being able to look at the data and be like, okay, yeah, so what are we looking at from budget? Like, what are we looking at in terms of our
Mm,
scope? How does
right.
all of this play together? And so it was great to have all of those pieces brought together and
Hmm.
understand kind of that scope and go from there. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess what I'm hearing, Megan, is that you're a great connector, right? Like we were talking about Chriselle, who's a great connector of people. Sounds like
absolutely.
you're also a great connector of people, but also like the numbers part, right? The number side of being able to bring that into it because guess what, guys? Budget still affects our projects, right? Like we wish we had unlimited budget and all the things, but does
Yeah.
come down to numbers. But I love too hearing how you have that perspective or at least that forethought to say, okay, yeah, we need a detail oriented person, right? We need
Hmm.
that person who is going to be very exacting and, can keep us on track. But then also you need the person who's the dreamer, right? That's like, hey, what about this? Right?
Hmm.
Like that might seem completely out of the box, but you need that person too, because you just never know, right? On a project, what could happen or it just sounds like too having that diversity of personalities and strengths definitely makes the project more successful,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
I think that that's a good way to explain it, where it's like, how do you like knowing your team, knowing the
Hmm.
things that they're great at, and then being able to bring those things to light and be like, you know what, actually, this would probably be a good fit for this person, or this might be a good fit for this person. And
Yeah.
seeing that come together, or like, hey, you know what, these people have been really great to work with, and they bring a lot of great people to the job. Like, let's see if we can partner with them again. And like
Nice. Yeah.
it's one of those things where for me and clarity of my role, like I'm still growing into these things. So
Uh-huh.
I offer the suggestions and I'm like, well, what about this? Or hey, have we thought
Right.
about doing this? And it's more
Yeah.
of a, get that dreaming piece, right? And so I get
Yes.
to, bring a little bit of the dream, and then I'm, my more experienced and really great mentors and really great team. They're like, yeah, okay, like let's think about this, or I didn't think about that. Let's, reconsider it. And they're really
Right.
open to listening. So it's been a great teamwork or team for sure.
Definitely. Well, I guess too, like being able to have all those sides, but I loved what you mentioned about having the people that have more experience, right? Being able to almost dare I say mentor you a little bit,
Oh,
right?
oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Obviously, we are here to talk about women, right? Women in construction, but I love too that there are so many men out there that are willing to support other women in the industry, right? And to answer those questions, keep an open door policy. Unfortunately, I've come from the side where men have immediately dismissed me, right? They're
Mhm.
like, I'll walk onto a job site, they give me a pink hard hat, and they're like, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, well, let me just tell you that this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong. And they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I've got like 15 years in construction, buddy. Like,
Mhm.
maybe you should pay attention, right? So it's almost, obviously we go up against that, but being able to hear the other side too of working with those gentlemen that are willing to teach and to help you learn about the industry, I think that's so invaluable, right?
Yeah.
And being able to know that you can rely on them, and even have someone who's your cheerleader, right? That's like, yeah, you got this, right?
Yeah.
You could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, like working with Jacob and Preston has been that for sure. So like Jacob is stupid smart. He is a tunnel
Yeah.
engineer, PhD. And I was like,
Wow. Yeah.
you talk at a different level that I even understand, but he's so good about bringing it to like, I was like, okay. And so he was explaining finite element analysis to me. And I was like,
Okay.
I didn't know what this was, but he did such a good job. I was like, okay, now I understand what you're trying to do and what you're,
Right.
where you're looking at this pressure from the TBM. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, okay, now that makes sense. And so they're always, that trend has definitely continued where they're like, hey, we see you're a sponge. I'm going
Yeah.
to throw as much at you as you can possibly take. And
Nice.
I'm going to, let you synthesize it, but here's the information. And so they've been absolutely phenomenal to work with on that front. And
Oh, definitely.
they've definitely, when I got the invite for this podcast, they were like, way
Yeah.
to represent. And I was like, okay.
Yes, see, I'm telling you, that's what I'm telling you, right? So, and then
Yes.
get kind of transitioning then back to the theme, right, for Women in Construction Week. This year for 2025, the theme is Together We Rise. So I'm curious, Megan, what does that mean to you? Together We Rise. What does that mean to you personally within the construction industry?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's really about building each other up. And I think my experiences historically with women in other industries have been more
Hmm.
about like this kind of secret competitiveness
Yeah.
that is like, oh well, you're doing that and it's not my vibe. Let's just put it this way.
Well, that's right. I
I
hear you. Mm.
yeah, and so it's one of those things where I've really loved coming into this industry, and so I think about folks like Christelle, who is phenomenal about like being like, yes, you can do this, and being such an encourager when I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I supposed to be here? Do I need to go back to some of these old industries? And she's like, no, like you're where you need to be. You're doing
Yep.
a great job. You're learning so much, like keep going. And
Yeah.
then even, like we had actually a very sizable amount of women on the GAP project. And I
Nice.
think everyone was again like, hey, it's about building each other up. It's like, I mean, the inspector who trained me on environmental inspection, she is phenomenal at what she
Oh,
does. And
love it.
she was always so good about, she was like, no, we're really like, let's do this together. And so she and I
Okay.
would always be like an encouragement to each other. And that was definitely an amazing friend in that season. And even on the
Yeah.
contractor side, like, working with Samantha Marco, with
Mm.
Kramer, and man, that woman is like on top of her stuff. And
Yeah, she
so like
is.
again, it's one of those things where you just are like, hey, we're building each other up and like let's talk through when we're having a hard time. And it's not about us competing. It's about us saying like, hey, you're doing a great job at what you're doing. Like keep doing that.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would say is like what I think of when we say together we're rising. So
Definitely. No, and I think you brought up a great point of the environmental woman who was like, no, let's do this together, right? I think
Mhm.
that inherently, like whether you're man or woman, that you learn better that way, right? Instead of
Yeah.
saying, oh, well, let me just you sit over here, I'll do it, you just watch me. No, I mean,
Hmm.
you need to get together, right? And
Hmm.
to actually work on something to learn. I think that's the best way to make mistakes together, right? Like again, shit's gonna happen, right? Things are gonna go wrong. But being
Absolutely.
with having someone next to you who has that experience of like, okay, yeah, this didn't go as planned, right? But here's what we're gonna do about it, right? So
Yeah.
being willing to be that problem solver, I think,
Hmm.
is definitely helpful, and it's great to hear that again that those women were willing to do that, right, and leave the competition aside because we're not in high school anymore, Megan. I mean,
Yeah. No,
like
it's played out at this point. So
thank you. No more
yeah.
mean girls. Okay. We're over
Yeah.
it. Right. Like we need to do
Absolutely.
this. And I think too, being able to, have that experience of being on a larger project like that. How do you feel that that has kind of influenced the types of projects that you're working on now, Megan? Having that first experience on a larger job and now going to, I'm not saying smaller jobs like minuscule, but kind of what the work that you're doing now. How has that influenced you?
Yeah, no. And so to clarify, so I actually have kind of transitioned out of projects for the majority of the
Oh, okay.
time.
All right.
Yeah,
Good to
yeah.
know.
So
Yes. All right. Side
yeah,
note.
no. So I went
Yeah.
I'm pretty much completely back office at this point.
Yes.
So
Okay. But
I would
still
say
important.
yeah,
Yes.
it still has a lot of value. I think it's been great to give the guys the space and capacity to run where I'm like, I want to make your job less difficult. And
Yes.
I think we onboarded the accounting software and they were troopers about it. And I appreciated them every step of the way.
Nice.
But it's one of those things. So now I'm completely back office. But I think
Mhm,
what honestly those larger scale projects like help set up for scale.
mhm,
So right now we're a firm size of 22.
mhm.
On the GAP project, we easily had more than that on the construction management
Yeah.
side. And so it was how do we manage systems? How do we
Mm,
create systems that are repeatable and scalable and like that there is a way to continually grow. And so it was a great kind of think tank for that and being like, oh, okay, so this worked, but this might not work. And so now that we're, looking to do the same and scale and grow as a company, it's
mhm.
like, okay, yeah, I can bring that experience in and be like, okay, yeah, I learned these things. Okay, maybe we don't need this amount of detail, like this
Right.
isn't helpful or constructive, but how do I create simple, digestible tools that people can use and refer back to? And that was something that was like a big success from some of these larger projects where I was like, here's your cheat sheet. Like
Right.
here, this is
Checklist. Yeah.
there is a checklist and here is how you do this. And this is all I need from you. And it just like synthesized all that information with all of the like rich, standard operating procedures behind it. And
Yes.
so it's like you're like, no one's going to read this after like the first or second time. Like they
Right.
really just kind of need to know, like, oh, this is where I'm putting this is how
Yeah.
I'm doing this, and this is what I need to name it, and keeping it
Right.
very simple. So
No, for sure. Well, and I think too, what I'm hearing is like, and what I love about too about construction is that it's mostly the same, right? We mostly follow a lot of the same processes, whether, like you said, it's the bigger project, down to other projects where, like you said, you're working more in the back office. So to be able to take that experience and have it transfer, right,
mhm.
to other positions, I think is so critical, because you don't want to start all over again, right? I mean, every time you change, it's like, oh, so it's great to hear that you were able to kind of take that learn knowledge from your first company, transfer it over to your second one, and still be a great asset, right? Sounds like, to be able to set those SOPs, standard operating procedures, guys. Again, so many acronyms in this industry, right?
Mhm.
But to be able to do that, I think is phenomenal, and it's one of the great things that I love about the construction industry.
Yeah, no, I think that, what I've really loved about it is like it's honestly this ability to create and to create something that's bigger than yourself and to be able to give that back to the public and to say, I don't know. One of my favorite things of listening to the guys talk was like, yeah, I was on this project and this project and this project. And I was like, your name, like, no one may never know it. Like, they may never know that it was you, but
Mhm.
you are a part of the history and the makeup of this state. And that's just like the
Right?
coolest thing to me.
It's
So yeah, it's been amazing to, be a part of that building. And now it's a different kind of building.
yes.
I get to actually, I get to build, an infrastructure, which I
Yes.
absolutely love. So, it's getting to be a part of it in a different way. I would 100% say leave it to the technical experts, but I was like, this part
Yes.
I can do. So
Right? You're like, this is my jam over here, right? Like, we got you on this project. Well, and I
yes.
think too, you can still say you're part of the I-25 GAP project. Again, one of the biggest projects in Colorado at the time, right? And
Yeah.
will continue to be. And what a legacy project, Megan. I mean, gosh, like, and I will say too, that's again one of my favorite parts of construction as well. I have more experience on the vertical side. So
Okay,
there's
cool.
a hotel in Cherry Creek. Every time I go by it, I make sure to tell my friends I worked on that, right? Like, I was helping with these specifications and getting the drawings and everything together. Because I worked at an architecture firm at one point, was
Oh, cool.
the marketing manager, but it was all hands on deck, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we're several hats. And like you said, I didn't have that specific technical expertise, but man, I was a sponge too, right? You
Mhm.
just soak it up, tell me what to do, I can replicate, right? And hopefully
Mhm.
to make it better. But yeah, being able to point to things and saying that was me, right? Like, I was a part
Yeah.
of that, right? My name's
Yeah.
not on it either, but
Yeah. Absolutely.
that knowledge, I think too, it's almost well, it's, for lack of a better word, it's taking pride in your work, right? Being
Yeah.
able to have that. And I think that's something very unique to the construction industry. So
Yeah.
kind of thinking back now, hopefully you're not going to leave the industry anytime soon, Megan. I'm not going to let you. But thinking forward, right, to the next maybe 10, 15 years, what do you think that looks like for you within the construction industry? Where would you like to be within the next 10, 15 years?
That's a really great question. I'll be honest, I don't think that far ahead. I
Oh,
am kind
okay.
of like,
Fair.
yeah, no, I'm more of like what's the opportunity that's in front of me? And like, what does it look like to kind of go all in on that opportunity until like you see the next one that comes about, And
Yep.
so I'm with Emprise for a while and, we're going to be around. And I was like, yeah, I'm excited to see where we can grow, what we can do, how we can diversify and getting to be a part of that and, just continue to learn. I would
Yeah.
love to learn more on, the structural side. I think that's
Mm.
fascinating.
Yes.
Even just some of the geotechnical work that Jacob has been doing. I'm like, I did not know that you could like this, that soil mattered this much. Like
Right? Exactly. That's so
I
true.
was just like, I didn't understand it. And then I was like, so you hear about expansive clays. And I was like, I
Yes.
remember us dealing with that when we were on the I-25 South Gap and the guy has
Yep.
handled it incredibly well. But I was like, well, okay, and now I understand what that impact is to a road, right? But then
Yes.
you think
Right.
about foundations, you think about, what does
Yes.
that mean in the long run? So, I mean, I've gotten the opportunity to learn a little bit on that side. So I'm just, continuing to learn, continuing to explore different parts of the industry and kind of see where that takes us as a company. So,
Hell yeah. Well, and I love too, again, it's you're building the infrastructure, right? Like you will be, whether you stay at MCOR or not, you're a part of that company, right? And part of those systems that you're building, right? Within there. So I guess too, so let me flip the question then. What do you hope to see in the next 10 to 15 years for just women in general in construction? What do you hope to see?
I think what I would want to see for women is the collaboration with, with men both that are in front of you and behind you. I would say
Hmm.
like, where it's not us necessarily separating ourselves and saying like it's us against the world. It's us
No.
as yeah, again, it's us together as a community building something better. Like, where it's like, yes, I see your strengths. Like, I want to call those strengths out and I want to say, yes, you can do this, and then at the same time being like, hey, I have these strengths to give. Like, I have this ability, this is what I can do to contribute to this project. Or, what, I see a gap here. And I think it's
Yeah.
just like breaking down those silos of it's, men versus women and being like,
No.
no, let's do this together and,
Right.
appreciate what is unique about each of us as individuals. So I would say like learning more nuanced thinking of how we think about teams.
Definitely. And I think too, collaboration, again, it's an overused word, and some people are like, oh, collaborate, collaborate. No, but it's true. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, we all have to work together because if you think about it, Megan, uh, everybody, men, women, they, them, whatever, we all are impacted by construction, whether you like it
Mhm.
or not, right? Like you
Absolutely.
can't get to work, get to school, or wherever without being on a road that someone built, without, going into, let's say you're going into the office. If you want the heat on, guess what? Construction did that too.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
and once you start thinking that way, it's like, oh, okay, well, if you think about heating and air conditioning, men and women, we have different temperatures, right? Like we're more comfortable with hot, cold, or whatever, so that we all, have something to add and have perspective because we experience construction every day, right, within our lives. And I think it's important, like you said, to have both parties, right, to have us both together to be like, okay, yes, we have differences, but also like, we got to do this. We got to wrap this up, guys. We got to collaborate, whether you like it or not. So
Yeah,
get on
absolutely.
board, right?
Yeah.
Well, also then, kind of within that same vein of thinking about the future, what advice would you give to young women who are looking to get into construction, right? What advice would you give to them, Megan?
I have to say I'll probably quote Scott McDaniel, and it was probably one of
Oh,
the
all
most
right.
influential things that I had heard from a boss. And he said, I don't want to hear that's not my job. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, whatever job needs to be done, you do it. Like, I mean, we do jobs that are hard. We do jobs that we don't always necessarily like.
Mhm.
And, hey, let's get our hands dirty and let's do the thing that needs to be done. And being that kind of a team player goes a really long way.
No, for sure. And I think too, young women need to understand that it's not that there's many avenues for construction, right? Like you don't always have to get your hands dirty, right, and work in the soil. There are many different ways that you can support the industry, but still grow within the industry too, right? Like
Absolutely.
we talked about this before, how that it's not stagnant, right? Like you can start as the admin, become a project manager, work back of house, all the things, work on proposal pursuits, but you're still making an impact, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't have those procedures in process or those procedures in place, your guys in the field would be screwing up left and right, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need you just as much as you need them, right?
Yeah, it was one of those things like where it was so great where it was like they were like, "Hey, who do I call or do you have this person's number?" And I was like, "Yep, here you go. Like this is an
Done.
easy way to do it." And like,
Mhm.
again, because it wasn't necessarily like always out in the field doing that type of work, it was
Yeah.
they were like, "Hey, where do I go to find this?" Or, "Hey, what does this look like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here, like this is where you go for this, or here I can get that for you super quick, or if you need me to flip that around for you real quick, I can do that too. Or,
Yeah.
checking 266s if they were in a crunch or whatever that looked like. It was always different.
Yeah, well, and I guess what I'm hearing too, Megan, is that you're with that advice that Scott gave you is always be willing to help, right? Like
Mhm.
I feel like construction is again one of those unique industries where you can't do it alone. Okay, like
Mhm.
I've never heard of one person doing an entire project, right? I mean, maybe like something on their house, but like I'm talking commercial construction, it doesn't happen with one person, right? And
Yeah.
we all have to be willing to pitch in when we need it because guess what, guys? We're on a budget and we got a schedule, right? The owner is expecting I-25 to be open at this point, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not Johnny on the spot and willing to help each other out, it's not going to get done, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. And I know it's definitely say so I have a lot of friends that work in the trades and in residential as well.
yes.
There was definitely more than one of them at my house the other day, like
Ah,
working on several of my house
right.
projects for me. Like so yeah,
See?
it took a village for sure.
It does. Right.
Yeah.
And two, I think, again, one of the unique things about construction for the audience that may not know is that Megan mentioned the trades. So there's, electrical trade, there's the HVAC trade, there's, gosh, I mean, I could list a million
Plumbing.
of them,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. But
Welding. Yeah.
yes, yeah, all the things. But the point is that in order to build that school or whatever that commercial building, we all have to work together, right? Because the electrical guys they need to get behind the wall and put in their conduits before they can hook up the HVAC system, right?
Mhm.
So regardless of what you're doing, man, woman, whatever, you still got to work together, right? I feel like that's the central theme here,
Yeah.
whether we're pulling it out or not. And to me, I think again, that's the beauty of it is that without all of us working together, things aren't going to get done, or at least they won't be done successfully, anyways, right?
Yeah, I think it always kind of lacks where you don't where you have individuals that are, in silos. You're like, oh, I really like I want to bring you in. I want
Yeah,
your experience, your expertise. Like, and if it's not there, it's just like it's not as beautiful, it's not as good as it could be. And
right.
so
Yes.
there's a lot to bring from having lots of varying viewpoints and honestly, even varying viewpoints that don't always necessarily disagree. Sometimes that's a
Ooh.
healthy thing to have. So
Yes. No, exactly. Because again, without those kind of open conversations where people are willing to be vulnerable, willing to bring up the maybe not so popular opinion, right? Or whatever that might be, I think through those discussions, you're able to land at a solution that works for everyone. Right.
yeah.
Like, and again, without having those considerations, if we just all had our blinders on and we're going down the same road, oh, well, this is the way we've always done it. And this is we have to do it this way, guess what? Then you're going to end up with the same old shit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
nothing will ever change.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. So talking about that collaboration. So
Yeah.
actually all of the PEs that are, professional engineers that we have
Hmm.
here at
Yeah.
Emprise, they got together and they were like throwing back and forth best practices and what does this look
Nice.
like for us to build something that is strong. And like so Neil kind of had like this vision in his head, but then he let it go and then he was like, let's just see what this like turns out to be. And like the
Mhm.
guys built something really great. And I was like, it was cool to be a
Oh,
part of and it was cool to see them bringing forward these things and bringing their feedback and
yeah.
they yeah, I would just say like I really appreciated like Neil and him being able to say you know what, let's be open, let's see what everything says. And he was such a great synthesizer of here are all the different ideas and these things worked and these things didn't. And I think
Yeah.
they came together with something really great.
No, for sure. And I think too, being able to, as you were saying, bring someone's vision to life, right? Whether that's Neil's or yours or someone else's. Again, the beauty of construction is it doesn't like you see an open field that, like, what is that? Field of dreams, right? That could be a future subdivision. That could be a future, you know, parking lot or whatever, right? Whatever we might need, but it doesn't happen. Yes, you need the vision, right? But you need all of those people, like you were saying, with those different viewpoints to bring that vision to reality. Kind of wrap up and maybe leave our listeners with one message. So what do you feel like if you could leave them with a message about the importance of women in construction, what would it be?
Bring your best ideas and your best self to every team.
No.
And so I would say, yeah, like bring, you know, don't say like, okay, I'm bringing this because I'm a woman, bringing it because that's who you are and what you've been uniquely crafted to bring forward. And that, you know, you're like, I have something of value and it doesn't matter what the team looks like. And so I'm going to bring that forward and to help this become a better product for something that's bigger than myself.
No, for sure. And I think too, adding to that would be just having the confidence to show up like that, right? I think sometimes, especially when you're new or new to the industry or like kind of sitting in the corner, like, oh, I don't really know what's going on, whatever. And yes, listen, I'm not saying that you should jump right in and say, oh, I know everything, because
absolutely. That does not go over well. I've already
Nobody likes a know-it-all, okay? But once you've been there, right, and you've been listening to these other people, don't be afraid to speak up, right? And to bring your unique perspective, whatever it is, because you just never know what kind of impact that could have on someone, right? And what that could be and how you could ultimately contribute to the success of a project. That's a wrap for this episode of Get Them to Give a Fuck. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Get Them to Give a Fuck podcast. Leave a review. Feel free to share it with others. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can check out my training sessions and resources at getthemtocare.com. And until next time, stay passionate, stay strategic, and most importantly, stay committed to giving a fuck.